Are you really afraid of AI, or are you just afraid that you make slop? I'll never be afraid of a damn clanker, because I know that human consciousness, or anything alike human consciousness, cannot be created outside the bounds of reproduction. Throughout our childhoods, we've been inundated with this idea of the self-aware AI, the robot that can love, the algorithm that can hate, the synthetic homunculus that's superior to us in every way. If you're based and locked in, like I am, then you know that most media, the general populace, is allowed to see is entertainment dressed up as propaganda. It's designed to prepare people for certain eventualities the rulers seek to instate in the world. It is designed to create acceptance of the evil things that the rulers want to do when they do come around to doing them. And I think this is one of the undercurrents that drives the idea that AI could truly create as a human does. We've all seen the drawings, we've all seen the paintings, we've all seen that AI can create a fucking Ghibli film. We all know that AI can emulate humans very well. The key word there being emulate. If you are an artist, then you understand that if you want to gain any kind of proficiency in your craft, referencing former masters is a requirement. And you understand that all great art is built on and derivative of the great arts that those past masters created and put into the world. If you want to draw or paint, you better be referencing Leonardo da Vinci or Caravaggio, or any other, these like Leonardo da Vinci might not have existed. These polymaths, they may have been created as an excuse to hide the accomplishments of former civilizations like Nikola Tesla. Anyway, that's enough of that. If you want to create films, then you better be studying, well, film's a little different because it's all satanic god, but, Satanism aside, if you want to create film, you better be watching and understanding the great films that were made in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and how they influenced all the great in quotation marks, directors that came after them. If you want to create comic books or manga or graphic novels, you better understand why Watchmen is so good. You better understand why Takahiko Inoue is goated. Why Berserk is still talked about after Miura's death. Why certain works of art work as well as they do, and why they resonated with people so deeply. Algorithmic learning models, even in the inception of their function, were built to emulate humans. They can do the same things that we can, except when they can reference a million times faster. They can make their creations look 1,000 times more accurate. So why is it that it feels so empty? Why is it that people know intuitively when they see a piece of AI art that it was made by a fucking clanker? It's because it was made by something without a soul. Because consciousness should not and cannot be boiled down to merely electrons running through a circuit. Because consciousness is not just the right biological wiring or product of evolution, or the right electrons bouncing around in the right configuration in your head, or whatever the fuck electrons do when they're not being watched. Consciousness is your ability to reason, is your ability to perform logic. Consciousness is the faculty that allows you to interact with the abstract, uncreated reality, the ability to cognize the future, the amphitheater where humans actually have power and affect it from the present, molding the world to the will of God.
There's this sentiment that you hear from the anti-woke DEI crowd that essentially just boils down to, wah, stop putting opinions into my slop. Artists shouldn't have opinions. They just need to make good stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I think liberals fucking suck, and their works are dissolving the fabrics of society. But you have to realize that they are just the group the elites found most convenient to use for this purpose. Hollywood is a satanic, degenerate, Kabbalistic, evil industry, and it has been from its inception. The pedophilia and rape didn't just start in the 1990s. That shit was baked into the conception. Now trust me, you don't want automatons making your art, and I warn you, that is the direction we're going in. Algorithms cannot create art, and as we see more drawings, paintings, music, and eventually scripts for TV and movies being made by AI, we have to realize that there's always going to be someone controlling a robot. It's like the 2011 movie Real Steel. You remember it had Wolverine in it. In computing, a daemon is defined as a background process running beyond the purview of the interactive user, and I find it funny how they choose to use that word, because I think we're coming into the age where we don't know if the media we're engaging with was crafted by a fellow conscious mind or by a prompt, and we need to gain the discernment to understand if we're interacting with said daemons. You don't want artists without opinions. You want artists with the opinions that bring you the conscious and subconscious catharsis that allows you to find transcendent meaning in life. Something that no mere petty political ideology that you found online, whether left or right, can manage. If your opinions are based solely on politics or philosophy that isn't informed by a grounded, solid sense of self that has been developed through real suffering, hardship, and life experiences, and or a connection to a transcendent being, they are essentially meaningless, and nothing that can lead to the construction of a generative culture could ever come from that. All these people in Hollywood can create is degenerative culture, because their souls themselves are degenerative. All they can do is regurgitate talking points they heard on TikTok, and all they can muster up from the black mirror that they call their souls is art that can only reflect our demon-infested world. And I'm not saying that depicting horrific dystopian or post-apocalyptic worlds in fiction is wrong. I think some of the best art that I've interacted with personally does that. What I'm saying is that everything these people create is an echo of the vapidness and the emptiness that lies at the center of the modern world. The people without this basis I've described for creating their art are essentially equal to the automatons that will inevitably replace them. Now, many will not be able to articulate this, and I know I'm being quite arrogant when I say that, but all these neocons, laughing as Catholics, these atheist chuds that complain about this kind of thing are essentially trying to proliferate the sentiment I just went over into the world. However, it can only surface out of their minds as, gee golly, more DEI slop. Either way, I don't blame the people, I blame the system. The people creating the mainstream slop that's labeled as art in the modern day will be replaced by robots. I don't wish for anyone to lose their jobs, even if they deserve it, but I just hope the only thing these Hollywood writers are writing in the future are AI prompts for Marvel movies. They don't need to be getting paid as much as they do for the shit that they produce.
People aren't stupid, even the people that you consider to be NPCs. I believe that most general audiences, even if they're consumers, even if they're the worst of the brain-lit Marvel fans that still glaze the slop that they make to this day, will not just sit around and consume the slop created by AI. And when the overpaid slop makers are inevitably replaced, I believe the true artists will rejoice, for I believe the general audiences will begin fleeing the clutches of the mainstream entertainment industry. They will begin challenging themselves. They will begin looking for real art made by real niggas. They will begin engaging with art rather than consuming it. And they will find themselves in the welcoming arms of independence. And I believe that if you are a real nigga, now is the time to begin creating. Now is the time to take a leap of faith. Because I think in 50 or maybe 100 years, this time will be studied as a time of great artistic revolution, as a time when the real ones took up arms and cut through the all-encompassing garbage we call entertainment, casting light on a new path that artists for generations to come could follow. And I think when this great revolution, in quotation marks, happens, and when the general audiences flee into the perceived badlands of indie entertainment en masse, we must have hospitable environments for them to settle into. And I don't mean hospitable in the neoliberal, gay-ass, tolerance type of way. No, tolerance is gay, but I mean in a more commercial and industrious sense, that we must have good-looking products, good-looking websites, you know, that type of thing. So that when the exodus of the audiences does happen, whether it's in 5 or 10 or 15 years, we will be ready for it.
Maybe this will never happen, and I'm yapping, but hey, that's what you clicked for. And maybe I have too much faith in humanity, but I'll never let anyone convince me that that's a weakness.
Look, rabbit.